Greetings builders, Daniel here and welcome to the second half of my top 6 Forbidden Sanctum builds. If by any means you missed the first half, don't worry, you can find its link in the video description together with the complete guides for all of those builds. The build to occupy the honorable third place is the Righteous Fire Juggernaut with the Marauder class. Here you can use all the tankness and life regeneration from the Juggernaut to easily sustain the Righteous Fire damage and just walk your way through the end game. To list the pros of this build, I would have to start with how comfortable and smooth this gameplay is. As soon as you get this build sustaining Righteous Fire, you start clearing maps without even noticing. This character is also ultra tanky and a great starter. You can start it on a clean account and still have it done easily. Now to list the cons, I'll start saying that the boss damage isn't great, but don't worry, you kill map bosses easily even on a low budget, but Guardians and Pinnacle bosses will take longer than usual if you don't invest some Divine Orbs. Another issue is that the leveling is a little bit complicated since we use a spell as a Marauder, but if you follow closely the steps from the leveling section on the complete guide, you won't have a problem. As for budget, you can get it destroying early end game maps with something around 105 chaos, but if you follow the crafting tips on the complete guide, this can get a lot cheaper. To comfortably advance to yellow maps, you need to invest around 150 chaos, and for easily completing your atlas, I recommend investing in your survivability, around 4 divines. Don't forget that on PoEbuilds.net you can find a list with all the equipments that you need to buy for this build, with direct links for examples being sold from other players. You need 2 mandatory unique items for this build. The first are the Legacy of Fury boots. They scorch enemies and cause them to explode for an amazing clear speed. The other mandatory unique item is the Immortal Flash belt. This one grants a huge amount of life regeneration and even a great armor buff. For clear speed, I'll give this build 10 out of 10. As mentioned before, as soon as this build is complete, you just walk and watch everything burn around you. This means not stopping for casting and saving a lot of time while farming. The boss damage on the other hand is not great. I would just give it 7 out of 10 because it will need investment to deal with decent DPS on Guardians and Pinnacle bosses, but this build still kills map bosses without any issue. For the survivability, this build surely has 10 out of 10. As you can see on the POB, this build gets over 100,000 armor, 2000 life regeneration per second, over 87 of all elemental resistance, and even over 50% chance to block spell damage. Look at the effective HP, it goes beyond 240,000. Even if you try to die, it won't be easy. Next, with the silver medal, we have the Cast on Critical Tornado Shot Ice Spear Deadeye with the Ranger class. This build combines all the power of a Cast on Critical build with the safety of a ranged attack. It has an amazing clear speed and can deal big damage to bosses. To list the pros of this build, I would start with this amazing clear speed you're seeing. Look how satisfying it is to cast so many ice spears from our tornado shot projectiles. I assure you that you will love clearing maps with this build. This character is awesome for killing bosses as well. It deals a lot of single target damage even from a great distance. Above all, it's also very safe to play it. You kill monster and map bosses from afar, keeping them frozen into place. And for those bosses that are immune to freeze, you can also keep a safe distance and destroy them. If by any means they manage to reach you, you still have over 90% chance to evade attacks, high chance to suppress spell damage, and high armor. Now to list the cons, I'll start saying that this build isn't for everyone. You need a lot of currency to put it together. Another issue is that it isn't easy to build because it needs many specific rare items. As for budget, this build would need at least 12 Divine Orbs to put together. As I said, it's an expensive one. You need 3 mandatory unique items for this build. The first one is the Asnaf's Mark helmet that triggers Socrates skills when you attack. This grants even more ice spears. We also need the Maloney's mechanism. This one is the only quiver that has sockets. We're going to use those extra sockets to debuff bosses for a lot more damage. Finally, we also need 2 Intuitive Lips unique jewels to save many points in our passive tree. For clear speed, this one is surely a 10 out of 10. Clearing with this build is not only fast but also extremely satisfying. The boss damage also deserves 10 out of 10. You end up casting many ice spears and all of them can hit the target, causing an incredible shotgun effect. For the survivability, I'll give it 9 out of 10. This build can do everything from a safe distance, it freezes enemies and has a huge amount of evasion, armor and spell suppression. It will be hard to die if you always mind your position on guardians and pinnacle bosses. Finally, we have the winner. The build I have the most fun playing during the Forbidden Sanctum League is the Venom Gyre Deadeye with the Ranger class. Venom Gyre is a very interesting skill which fires a projectile that hits enemies and returns to you, piercing and dealing damage to everything on its path. When the projectile successfully returns to you, you can keep and stack them up to 30 times and they will all be released at once when you use the Whirling Blades movement skill. To list the pros of this build, I would not even know where to start. It counts with an amazing clear speed, boss damage and over 100,000 effective HP. Above all of that, it's cheap and easy to put together. It doesn't require any mandatory unique item. Now to list the cons is the real challenge here. It's hard to find something not to like on this build. However, I would say that as most builds, it's vulnerable to chaos damage unless you invest on chaos resistance on your gear. As for budget, this build is cheap. You can get it destroying early endgame maps with only around 90 chaos. To comfortably advance to yellow maps, you need to invest around 120 chaos, and for easily completing your atlas, I recommend investing around 4 divines. For clear speed, I'll give this build 10 out of 10. The Venom Gyre projectile already has an expensive nature for the amount of time it stays dealing damage on screen. Now, with a Deadeye that grants a lot of speed and many buffs to projectiles, the result is what you're seeing in this tier 16 gameplay. The boss damage also gets 10 out of 10. You can use Vol Venom Gyre to instantly have 50 stacked projectiles and delete bosses with an amazing shotgun effect using Whirling Blades on them. It's unreal and the nerf hammer is surely watching. For the survivability, I give it 9 out of 10. This build counts with over 100,000 effective HP because of high armor, high evasion, spell suppression and block chance. And that concludes my top 6 Forbidden Sanctum builds. What do you guys think? Do you agree with it? Please don't forget to comment with your opinions and take a second to leave a thumbs up to support the channel. I wish you guys an amazing Sunday and don't forget to keep building.